I got all I want, and I got all I need, and I got everything. I got you and me. All I want, I got all I need.
Marriage is the best. Hey, welcome back to Marriage is the Best. We're so glad that you decided to join us today. Today we're going to be talking about a jumble of things. Starting off, we just want to thank Josh for coming on and talking through his marriage story. Josh is obviously my brother, and we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun connecting and talking through the story of his first marriage. It was really interesting to hear his process of recollecting the first marriage and what all that looked like. I really enjoyed hearing him work through kind of some of those early motivations surrounding commitment and what a strong value of commitment kind of meant for him in that season throughout the marriage. And then I really appreciated how he kind of walked through what it looked like to have his marriage explode and the responsibility that he felt called to at the end. I enjoyed how he discussed his refusal to become a victim just because he was going through this astronomically difficult season. And because he's my brother, I very much enjoyed his mind and, you know, how real our conversation was. When we wandered together. When we clawed back on track. So if you haven't checked it out yet, feel free to take a listen to Josh's interview from last week. We had a lot of fun. Marriage is the Best is attempting to tell very real marriage stories, not just good marriage stories, like when it works and how great it is, but also just the hard stuff. And I heard a quote just the other day, and I'm going to butcher it, and I don't even know where it originally came from, but it went something to the effect of trivial or trite stories create trivial or trite people. But hard, difficult, real stories create real people. And it's so easy to go on any sort of platform that you may frequent and find marriage advice. If you look for it. If your algorithm's not giving you marriage advice, that's okay too. Because in all honesty, a lot of the things that I run into just kind of give me an odd feeling around, I don't know, it just doesn't feel very real. It feels like some of it feels very attention seeking, especially when there's some sort of like message about how your spouse is doing it wrong. And so we're trying to tell very real stories, the messy ones, the great ones, and how do you tell a great one? What are the systems that you need in order to really do a good job and to find yourself at the end of your marriage and really the end of your life being really proud and happy with how you moved through that. So we hope that you appreciate that. We're not trying to be something that we're not. Recently, I have had an opportunity to learn more about what it means to live with integrity. I was taking a training for work, and integrity came up a bunch. And I realized that I hadn't really thought about what it looks like to live with integrity in a long time. Now, that sounds horrible. but I promise it's not as bad as it sounds. So I was thinking about integrity. I was thinking about falling short, I was thinking about, well, where do I fall short? Where do I fall into selfishness? Where do I fall into kind of the easy way? Where do I fall into passivity? I've experienced many different seasons where growth is very exciting and fun, and I'm seeing God do some really cool different things, moving with conviction and moving with very clear direction. Usually it comes one at a time because I can't focus on many more things than just one at a time. And it'll be really soft and gentle. It'll just be, hey, I want you to look in this area. Not too harsh, not too loud, really actually quite gentle and soft. Hey, just this area. I want you to look here. So, in the past it was, I just want you to look here at lust. Look at that. Look at how it's impacting you. Look at how it's impacting your life. Look at how it could impact your future marriage. What are you setting yourself up for? How are you preparing for that? And then early on in our marriage, it was more, looking at anger, frustration, and very slowly and surely, with lots of time and painful work on his part to very gently remind me of the area that he's asking me to look into. There's changes and there's fruit, which is really exciting. But also, as I look back, it can also be kind of discouraging because it can be difficult to grow and to feel like you're growing so slowly over time. So as I was learning about integrity and thinking more about integrity and just becoming more aware of my small choices, little tiny choices that I didn't like that much, I started to just make a shift in my attitude toward things. And my lovely wife also gave me an opportunity to talk through some things. So we were able to talk through hurts and convictions and struggles that we were both having recently. And it led to a series of difficult conversations. I realized that in my selfishness, I was letting things slip that I knew didn't need to slip. Little tiny choices, not being as helpful, not being as thoughtful, not being as engaged. And all those little things, I think, added up. And in our marriage dynamic, over the course of many years, we have been very committed to having hard conversations. And it takes a lot of energy to engage in difficult conversations. It takes a lot of energy to look at yourself and see the brokenness and the flaws, to see an area that you're lacking, to engage that area, to open yourself up to influence in that area from someone else or from a higher power or from a coworker, mentor, from your children, honestly. Oh boy. And it takes a lot of humility to look into that and to do something about it. So we had some hard conversations. They were hard. They were hard conversations. And the fruit was good. The fruit is always good. Especially when those little nagging things that you're struggling with or don't really want to talk about, finally start to come out in a healthy way, not as in like I've hidden an affair for the last 5 years and now I'm dumping it on you like a tsunami. That's not super helpful. So it's also not helpful, as Josh talked about, to drip the acid to the soul with little mini disclosures over time. I think that in order to avoid that, right, we all kind of have to lean into those convictions from the day to day to say, hey, I'm in this place right now. I am struggling right now. I'm feeling kind of selfish. I feel as though you have been selfish. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling unheard. I think oftentimes it's easier to point out how the other person is impacting you and much less easy to talk about and identify the parts that you're bringing and the ownness of falling short. And I think in the marriage context, I think a lot of integrity really just has to do with talking about where you're falling short, being honest with yourself and your spouse about what that looks like, and allowing the cards and dice to kind of fall where they may. Not in like a haphazard way, but knowing that the steps that you're taking to share and to be living with integrity will be honored and will bear fruit. That's not a promise or a guarantee, but I do believe that to be true, that you will be better off and your marriage will be better off and your children will be better off and your future will be better off by allowing yourself to engage in that and open up some of those lines of communication. So we've thought about this idea of integrity and living with it. We've thought about ourselves in light of integrity, and we have slowly identified some things that aren't quite right. As we've done that, we are feeling a strong urge. We're feeling a sense of conviction toward sharing in such a way that brings about further intimacy in your marriage. As you all know and can imagine, the hidden things in our marriages, the hidden parts of us, are often the things that have the power to destroy us. And the longer that we allow hidden things in our relationships, the more likelihood, the greater the chance that we're going to find that destruction. So if there is a conviction, as you think through integrity, as you think through sharing with your spouse, then I would say initiate a hard conversation with him or her and attempt to create that intimacy through the hard work of allowing your partner to see you clearly, allowing your partner to know and understand where you're at and what's going on. And in doing so, you open up the doors to furthering your intimacy, growing and building and developing a greater sense of connection and satisfaction as the hard work is being done and the fruit that will come as a result of the hard work that you're doing. We're all struggling, and you're not alone in the way that you're struggling. Your partner very well may know already that you're struggling, but maybe even just to hear that vocalized will be enough for them to acknowledge, to build, to grow from that. Becca and I recently watched a movie, It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, with Tom Hanks, and it was phenomenal. Oh my goodness. the man, that guy, Mr. Rogers, Tom Hanks, everybody in the movie was just, it was really wonderful and well done and sweet. And at the end, he's talking to this journalist, the journalist that's in the story, and he's talking about death. Anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. And I thought, what a powerful philosophy of life. It fit really well into the story, into his vision of giving kids permission to feel and to be, and celebrating who they are, and celebrating humanity in all its brokenness. So the idea that anything is mentionable is manageable falls right in line with what we're saying about integrity and marriage. The integrity comes from your willingness to say the things that need to be mentioned. And your relationship is then equipped, it is then called to work through and manage those things that need to be mentioned. Recently, Becca and I have been working through mentioning difficult things. It seems as though it's been a difficult couple of weeks. And yet, this weekend, and even just today, the teamwork aspect has improved greatly. I'm feeling more seen, more known, more understood, and I think she is too. And it's due to the fact that we're mentioning those things that need to be managed. And we're not allowing them to be hidden. We're not allowing them to just fade away, to be forgotten even. And so if you need to go to your spouse and say something, and the conviction is there, then I would say begin that process in gently talking to your spouse about what needs to be mentioned, knowing that it will be manageable, and maybe start to do some work on that thing that you're going to start to mention to show that you acknowledge what you're saying and that you're willing to take ownership of the process of getting through, of moving through a difficult time or a difficult season or a difficult moment. And if you are a spouse of someone who needs to share something, first of all, don't go looking for something. That's not permission to ask them if they're hiding something from you. That doesn't tend to lead to good things. Because if this doesn't come from their heart, then this is not helpful. So this is for you, okay? If your heart is not convicted to do something, the next time that your spouse shares something about themselves or you, or toward you about something that needs to be managed better in the relationship, I would say to open yourself up, be really open to that, be curious about it, be thoughtful about it, make some space for them to talk through that and to walk through that in as much as a non-defensive, non-judgmental manner that you can muster, knowing that anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. So let's talk it through. Let's walk it through. Okay, this is what we have. This is what's on the table. This is where we need to go. Start really small. And the earlier that you can talk about and catch something, usually the more manageable it is. Because as we've said, and as you all know, the more that we leave something in the dark, the more that we let it grow. Now, here's a resource if your spouse has continued to make decisions without integrity, such as affairs or different types of unfaithfulness, if there's an abusive dynamic in the relationship, if there's a lack of integrity, and this is just a show, Henry Cloud recently wrote a book called Trust. And from what I've heard and read, it's a really good resource. And it's not about trusting your partner who has failed you and failed you and failed you. It's more about how do trust systems work, and when are they to be believed, and when should we put our trust in them, and when should we not. And so it's a great resource for kind of working through some of those questions. And I think that you might find it helpful. I'm starting a new segment today. Marriage and culture. And I recently ran across something that was very marriagey and culture-y, and I wanted to share it with you. There's a lot of advice out there on marriage, a lot of things like little snapshots that you can read or reels that you'll run across that are trying to be helpful to your marriage and are maybe not as helpful. So we're going to talk about a not very helpful marriage insight that my loving wife discovered. So I'm not even going to tell you who wrote this. I read a bunch of the stuff that was written by this individual, and some of it was fine, and some of it was really bad, and some of it was dangerous, and some of it was fine. So full circle. The title, the beginning, says, she's not disrespectful. She's just not feeling loved. All right, so immediately, this is a pet peeve of mine. Who are you talking to? Who's your audience? Are you talking to men? Are you talking to women? Are you talking to women that are not feeling loved? Are you talking to men who are feeling disrespected? So I know that this isn't that well thought out, but when you start with, she's not disrespectful, she's just not feeling loved, I wouldn't say this or use this kind of language with my male clients because most of the time they're coming in really discouraged and feeling unloved themselves. They're feeling unseen, they're feeling unheard, they're feeling underappreciated. And so the quickest way to shut a man down from owning his stuff and seeing his wife's stuff and working on his part is to tell him she's not disrespectful. You're wrong. She's just not feeling loved. You're not doing enough. When men hear you're wrong and you're not doing enough, from any source, it is inevitably going to create defensiveness. And as the Gottmans have very clearly and succinctly shown in their research, a man's defensiveness is one of the markers for long-term success in marriage. So that's the title. All right, let's keep going. When a man loves his wife her way, she responds with honor his way. Most men crave respect. Most women crave love. But love must go first, because respect is a response. So you're telling men you just have to love your wife her way. Now, on its face, that's not necessarily like evil or wrong to tell a man that he needs to find ways to love his spouse in a way that she receives that love. That's actually something that I would say, but I probably wouldn't go about it in this way. When a man loves his wife her way, she responds with honor his way. What that says is, when a man is doing the right things and doing a good job of it, his wife is going to respond with honor. And I just don't think that that's true. I think that a lot of the times it is true. But I think that a lot of the people that I have in my office and a lot of people scrolling on social media are already feeling so disconnected, and they can very clearly see all of the things that they are doing, that they're trying to do right, that they've done in the past, that have been honoring, that have been loving. And what they're feeling is as though all of the things that they are doing are being minimized and all of the things that they aren't doing are being blown up. And so to basically, again, the message to the man in this segment is, you're not doing enough. Now, does that mean that I think all men are doing enough in their marriages? No, absolutely not. I don't really think any man is doing enough in their marriages, nor do I think that most women are doing enough in their marriages, because enough in your marriage isn't really the metric that we want to be looking at. What we want to be looking at is, are you working diligently today to do your part with whatever that looks like? Not are you enough for your spouse, right? Like it's some sort of competition, or like it's some sort of like you need to be measuring yourself and making sure that you're doing enough. The pressure and the mindset around that isn't loving, and it's not helpful, and it's completely unbalanced. There are such nuance when you're talking about marriage and marriage work, that things written things written that are like this kind of trivialize and miss so many of the variables that this couldn't possibly be a good way to speak to any of these audiences. Most men crave respect. We're reading again, quotation mark there. Most women crave love, but love must go first, because respect is a response. Again, there's a blame here. Okay. Love must go first because respect is a response. If you're not receiving respect, it's because you haven't been loving enough. That's not a helpful message. It's not beneficial. Now, are there people out there who are not being loved enough, and that the respect is a response, and that respect is going awry because there is neglect, or an unsustainable system has kind of sucked a lot of the life out of the marriage? Yeah, that's absolutely true. The thing that these kinds of statements create in men is just shame, inadequacy, and defensiveness, which again is the opposite of what you want if you're going to coach a man to be more loving to his spouse. The thing that this creates in a woman is entitlement. My response is just based on your response, dude. If I'm not being respectful, it's just because you didn't love me enough. It says this isn't a cycle, it's a principle. Submission isn't commanded, it's inspired. When a woman feels loved, she flows with trust and honor. A husband's love unlocks his wife's softness. I think you guys get the picture here, right? Blame. This isn't a cycle, it's a principle. Okay? So there's not equal parts that are bringing this into that are creating this system, right? It's not what you're bringing and what she's bringing. It's literally just you, because respect is a response. Submission isn't commanded, it's inspired, right? When a woman feels loved, she flows with trust and honor. And a husband's love unlocks his wife's softness. I know a lot of men that would disagree with that statement. I know a lot of men who are genuinely doing a good job and working really hard, albeit flawed, to love their wife, and it has not unlocked their wife's softness. And it has not flown trust and honor back his way. Quoting again, but love isn't what you think, it's what she feels. I can't even get through the paragraph. But love isn't what you think, it's what she feels. There are so many things that I could say about that. It is not even funny. Well, actually, it's very funny because I'm really giggling about it. Love isn't what you think. What he's trying to say there is that just because you think you're loving your spouse, she may not be receiving it. Now, there's some truth to that, right? Like, I've thought many times, especially early on in our marriage, that I was loving her really well. And I would get really angry when she wouldn't feel loved, because I'm like, dude, I'm like loving you the best that I possibly know how to. And so I had to update my knowledge and my understanding. But that was like really slowly over time, right? Like I had to do, again, the principle of I had to do every day what I could do every day to love my spouse so that we could grow in our marriage. Not so that she could respond better, but so that I could learn. Managing each other's responses is a horrible way to be married. And it also creates this like tit for tat idea, right? Because, you could write this just in the inverse, right? Literally just throw it into ChatGPT. Give me the inverse of this. And then just throw it at husbands and enable them to not take ownership of their parts. Marriage counseling is a balancing act. If you alienate a woman in session by telling her that her feelings don't matter, that she just needs to submit, and that she is somehow, failing her husband by not honoring and respecting and loving or having enough sexual intercourse with them, then you're gonna alienate your client, and all of a sudden your relationship is gone and there's no work that can be done. But the same exact thing goes for a man. If you look at your male client and you say, you're not doing enough, you aren't enough, you are failing, you are inevitably going to create a huge wave of defensiveness. And you're going to shut that relationship down in real time. You are going to confirm all of their previous notions about marriage counseling, about marriage counseling, and about counseling in general. And they will not come back to you. Back to the article. Love is patient when she's slow, kind when she's tired, gentle when she's moody, humble when there's tension. Love leads softly. So, definitely, husbands need to be patient and kind and gentle and humble, and they need to lead softly, for sure, all of those things. My problem with this actually goes back to the audience conversation. You, in these first couple of paragraphs and with your title, already alienated all of the men that may have been willing to listen to what you have to say. You already shut that door. You already shut down those lines of communication. So now we're going to tell him to do these things. Be patient, be kind, be gentle, be humble, lead softly. Oh, and it's all your fault. This isn't a balance. She's just responding to you. You are the issue. You are not enough. Right? That's the message. It goes on to say, love never fails. Love is always faithful. Love always trusts. Love listens without fixing. Love speaks life even in conflict. Love protects her from in-laws, nosy friends, and public shame. Should men do that? Yes, absolutely. Love should not fail, 100%. It's a lot of work, and you should work hard at it. But true love, being sacrificial, being connected, living with integrity, sharing those hard things, it won't fail. It'll have beautiful fruit eventually, as you walk that line. Oh yeah, walk the line. Love is always faithful, of course. Of course, be faithful. Always trusts. I think Henry Cloud might disagree. Listens without fixing. This one's funny because men are notoriously bad at listening without fixing, and you've already alienated all of them. And so now you're telling them what to do, and you're telling them to do something that's really difficult and they're not naturally wired to do. And it's fine to tell men to do things that they're not naturally wired to do. Like, obviously, that's fine. but not in this context. Like you already shut that door. The lines have been severed. You have cut them off. And so now you're trying to give them these nuggets and they can't hear you. It's not helpful. Speaks life even in conflicts. Yeah, definitely. Don't tear your wife down in conflict. Love protects her from in-laws, nosy friends, and public shame. That's great. I love that. Yeah, definitely. And good men are doing those things. You know, good men are protecting their wives from a lot of those things. And good men are not. Some good men are failing in that area. And you know what? That's okay too, because if they're willing to take responsibility for themselves today, then they can grow in that. They can grow in that through mentorship. They can grow in that through healthy community. They can grow in that by coming and seeing me. They can grow in that in all of these different ways. If they're willing to take responsibility and to see themselves clearly, then they can grow in that. Learn her love language. Okay, so we're going to go back. This is a quote now. Here we go. Learn her love language. Ask what makes her feel secure. It's not magic. It's maturity. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Doc. That's helpful. When you love her deeply, she honors you freely. When you love her right, and she'll follow you without a fight. Some of these things are just wrong. It's just wrong. Love her right, and she'll follow you without a fight. When you love her deeply, she honors you freely. These claims, so many of the men that you initially alienated, so many of the men that you tried to then provide helpful feedback for, so many of the men are not experiencing what you're describing. They're not feeling it. And if their marriage is struggling and you're trying to encourage them to do what is right, or if you're just trying to put a fire under their spouses to make them feel right, neither of those things are helpful. Neither of those things are good for marriage. It's destructive. And if you're to listen, if you were to just read this and you're feeling this way as a woman, I would imagine that you're going to be fired up. You're going to be like, oh yeah, see, it's a response. See, he's just not doing X, Y, and Z. He's not even doing the things. And so of course I'm going to feel this way. Of course I'm going to respond to him this way. Of course it's going to look this way. And that's not helpful. Firing that up is not helpful in any way, shape, or form. That's what I see so much on the different platforms, the TikToks and the YouTubes and the Facebooks and the Instagrams. Like when you see marriage advice that is attempting to get you fired up against your spouse, that's not helpful. And I understand that it can feel nice. It can kind of stroke that like adrenaline blame inside of you that wants to look at those things and wants to feel seen and heard, because you're not feeling seen and heard in your marriage. But I just wanted to let you know, like, it's not helpful at all. The stuff that men see that fires them up, the stuff that women see that fires them up, it's not helpful. Gottman interviews are helpful. What Gottmans have written, that's helpful. Marriage is the Best is attempting to be helpful. If you're helped, then you should click the 5-star thing on the thing. Anyways, that's terrible. So anyways, thank you so much for joining Marriage is the Best. We were so glad to have you. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. If you like the marriage and culture in marriage section, feel free to send us things that you want us to analyze, because we love to analyze things. Becca and I, analysis all the time. If you want to shoot us an email, feel free to do so. If you want to be on the pod, feel free to reach out. We're mostly taking local and live interviews. If you have a great marriage story, feel free to reach out. We have a few different interviews lined up that are just in the works of getting scheduled and getting extra equipment so that we can have more than one-on-one. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. This is the end.
When I got everything, I got you and me. All I want, I got all I need.
All right, here we go. I got some editing to do. 50 minutes in. I didn't think today's episode was going to be this long. So that was our new section. Should we play our outro music? Yeah, let's do it. There's our outro music for the cultural section. I don't know. Guys, this is just what it sounds like, all right? Marriage counseling is, in my opinion, and